It is a very specific brand of Republican leadership that finds itself in self-destruction mode this summer. First, of course, there's Sarah Palin's sudden decision to resign because only fighters have the courage to quit before the fight is over. News of her resignation turned the spotlight off the self-destruction of still South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford. Governor Sanford performed the gymnastic political feat of admitting to a life-altering love story affair while comparing himself to biblical King David and praising the spiritual guidance he received while continuing his affair from a secretive Christian fellowship organization that houses members of Congress at a tax-exempt house in Washington called C Street. Governor Sanford received his first measurable punishment for his affair last night. It's a censure from the leaders of the South Carolina Republican Party. They're not calling for his resignation. They're just saying, bad, Governor, bad. Governor Sanford's failings, you might also recall, eclipsed the first big conservative Republican scandal of the summer. That would be Senator John Ensign of Nevada, who outright winged Mr. Sanford by actually living in that secretive tax-exempt Christian fellowship house on C Street in Washington, and who outfailed Governor Sanford by confessing to an affair not just with some random lady in Argentina, but with one of his staffers, and to putting her teenaged son on the National Republican Senatorial Committee payroll as a policy expert. He's 19. At least he was a policy expert until he was done, until Senator Ensign was done sleeping with the boy's mother. Then the boy was let go. Senator Ensign still has his job, despite having called on President Clinton to resign because of his affair with Monica Lewinsky, and to having called on Senator Larry Craig to resign because of his infamous wide stance incident. So among them, Sarah Palin, Mark Sanford, and John Ensign, they have left a party perceived to be led by its conservative base with a rather crumbly and occasionally embarrassing foundation. What happens to that base next? Well, joining us now is Anna Marie Cox, national correspondent for Air America and contributor to Playboy magazine. Anna Marie, nice to see you.
Good to be here. Welcome back, Rachel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for filling in for me on Air America. It was very nice of you to have done so.
I enjoyed every minute of it.
So in terms of the conservative base of the Republican Party and their electoral hopes, is it definitely Brownback Huckabee 2012? Is there anybody else left on the right?
Well, I think that we need to be very clear about this, Rachel. It is very early. And although Barack Obama actually is probably atypical in that even 4 years before he ran, people were talking about him as a possibility, that's usually not the way presidential politics works. And I don't think we really know who is going to be in front. And also, I think, to my mind, Ensign and Sanford were never closer to the presidency until they had, their affairs. I actually had never heard of them talked about in any really serious way. So I think that the ground is still pretty empty for anyone that wants to step in there.
Well, the question, though, in terms of how somebody builds up leadership credentials in the Republican Party between now and the next election is, I mean, it's hard to understand how it works. I wonder if,
apparently you start by resigning.
If that's the first step on the
resume
golden
builder.
path. Yeah. Well, what we're seeing, though, from all the people who appear to be Republican leaders, at least like the chairman of the party, for example, is that moderates are still really getting trashed. Even people like Tim Pawlenty, who's sometimes praised as a moderate, when you ask him about it, he says, no, I don't think being a moderate is the future of the Republican Party. We have to be conservative, and even more conservative than we have been as yet. But I wonder if moderates in the party are weirdly being relatively empowered by these scandals just because it's not them who are quitting and getting caught stooping their staffers.
I think that's probably true, but I also think we have to be very careful about how we use the word moderate. I think that sometimes on the left and in the liberal media, it does exist. That moderate is often a code word for people that talk like I wanted them to talk, or people who agree with me. And I think that actually Pawlenty, T-Paw, I'm a fan of his, I think you are as well. He is a conservative. He's just thought through his conservatism. And I think that's the thing that Republicans are going to have to do. A lot of the positions that Republicans hold these days that I disagree with, I think are fundamentally not conservative. I think don't ask, don't tell is not a conservative policy. The conservative would want the best defense possible for their country.
Well, On the issue, though, of how Republicans fight it out amongst themselves, you're saying that you hadn't really heard that Ensign or Sanford would be a serious contender, at least among Republicans who you talk to. Palin, obviously, even as she is the subject of so much derision, is considered to be a major headliner within her party. I wonder if her resignation and this political brouhaha that she's created is sort of enough to save Senator Ensign's career and Governor Sanford's career. Has she just taken up all the oxygen in the room?
Well, I don't think that Ensign or Sanford needed Palin to help them in whatever remains in their career. Republicans are remarkably forgiving of other Republicans. And I think that Sarah Palin has provided an alternative to the Michael Jackson coverage for a lot of us, which is exciting. But other than that, I don't think that either the Ensign or the Sanford affair, unless Sanford just got even weirder, I mean, that whole story, regardless of politics, is fascinating, would have stayed in the national radar for very long. I mean, again, they're not incredibly major figures. Sarah Palin is a major figure. She is a big headliner. I don't know how popular she is. Republicans that I talk to here in Washington tend to kind of sigh and roll their eyes when I talk to them. And a White House staffer I talked to today said he was planning on maxing out to the Sarah Palin campaign if she did run.
Anna Marie Cox, national correspondent for Air America and contributor to Playboy magazine and friend of the show. Thank you for coming on today. Good to see you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Still ahead.